Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on 3Y TV here tonight. CraigSetupShop.co.uk poll shootout just wrapped up, and you're looking at John Cannizzaro, driver who is trying to turn things around, Drew, in his Maxwell House number 12 machine. Big shout out to CraigSetupShop.co.uk for sponsoring our poll shootout. Sorry, we're a little bit late. iRacing pushed an update, and so that kind of put everything all behind. But folks, thanks for tuning in here tonight. Big shout out to Stay Tuned Sports in the chat, joining the 3Y TV pit crew before the drop of the green flag here tonight. And going to be fun to see which one of these drivers turns things around in a Frayed Not Threads Nitro Memorial 240 here tonight.
Yeah, a bunch of things, a bunch of opportunities here tonight for guys like John Cannizzaro, guys like Nathan Maurer, guys like Chris Darling, and guys like Jason Gracias. I think our top four separated by 56 points sounds like a lot. It's not too bad. This series, of course, uses an older point system where the top finisher, the race winner, gets a 180 race points. That kind of staggers 5 points down all the way basically towards the tail end of the top 10. So basically what you need to know is 56 under the current NASCAR point system is obviously a ton. With this system, not so much. So it's a big hill for John Cannizzaro to climb, but starting that climb on pole here tonight, I don't think he could ask for a better start to this race. But a lot of laps to go here, Peter, as our big 2 mile oval like Auto Club, 95 laps. That's quite a race distance we have, and it's going to be interesting to see. I haven't experienced too many vehicles, Peter, that have a neutral feel, so we'll have to see if those guys are getting too tight or too loose. But let's go through this starting grid. Yeah, let's bring up tonight's starting lineup as all the drivers go across that digger cam in turn number 1. John Cannizzaro Jr. is on the pole here tonight. Philip Scott will be rolling off from the outside, just 9,000ths of a second slower than Cannizzaro. Nick Kessler, Jason Gracias will make up row number 2. Matt Cherry in the number 54 machine. We did not expect to see the number 54 here tonight, but he is on the starting grid. Jeff Price will be rolling off 6th. Nate Maurer in 7th. He's one driver that we need to keep an eye on here tonight as he is up there in the point standing. Stan Hausman rolling off in 8th. Doug Neal and Adam Leichty are rounding out our top 10 there, Drew. Ben Mashburn in 11th. Chris Darling, one of those kind of championship contenders, rolls off in 12th position. Then it's Randy Perdue, Adam Dama, Adam Newton, Justin White, Travis White, Scott Tompkins, our race official, will not be starting. Then Jeffrey Johnson Jr., Doug Milner, Tristan Maher, Vinny Valvano, Garrett Gleason, and Jason Shue is not running at our field because we got one more in 25th. That's Fred Lister in that 48 truck. But here we go, Peter. Field coming through turn 4, about to get this thing underway.
Coming to the green flag. It's going to be a long one here tonight, folks, as we see the green flag come out. We're racing 95 laps around this 2 mile D-shaped oval, and John Cannizzaro Jr. heading off towards turn number 1 with a little bit of help from the number 88. That is Nick Kessler right behind him on the outside. That's the number 99 of Philip Scott, right where he started with Jason Gracias, one of our top contenders for the title. But really, John Cannizzaro Jr., he has things to say about that, trying to bounce back from last week at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Chris Darling a little bit further back, and some people are counting out Chris Darling and Nate Maurer, but those drivers have been very consistent, and Drew, they are finding their strides right now in this chase. We have to watch them here tonight. Anything can happen as we are here completing lap number 1. Cannizzaro Jr. from the CraigSetupShop.co.uk pole position award will lead the first lap, but plenty more laps to go here as the field starts to get a little bit more strung out. Look at this, 2 and potentially even some 3 wide racing towards the back of the pack.
Yeah, always interesting to see exactly how the race will play out here at Auto Club. Sometimes it's a quasi-super speedway for the first 5 or 10 laps or so. Sometimes it gets strung out pretty quickly depending on how these trucks are handling. Now, being at night, I would kind of expect these trucks to kind of rubber band back and forth together and then spread apart and then together a little bit, probably on fresh tires. It's going to become less prevalent as these tires wears. Now, Philip Scott in that number 99 machine, who has really shown flashes of time, of course, winning his first race this year in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. but maybe not had the best runs really since the chase started, and he unfortunately was not able to secure a spot. But up there challenging for the race lead. And this is kind of what we were saying, Peter, is that this thing, it looked like it spread out, but it's kind of coming back together as now the 54 of Matt Cherry in that Stay Tuned Sports number 54 machine, making a move, making it 3 wide through 3 and 4, taking the race lead for now, at least from John Cannizzaro, as that middle did not work out well for that 12 machine. But I think Philip Scott was able to carry the momentum and has actually cleared that 54 machine.
Yeah, great battle for the race lead. Look at this, 6 drivers battling it out up at the front of the field. Philip Scott, Matt Cherry, Jason Gracias, John Cannizzaro Jr., Nick Kessler, Stan Hausman, the 6 horsemen up at the front of the field. There's the 54. And I'll tell you what, Drew, Matt Cherry needs a good showing here tonight in that Stay Tuned Sports F-150 because last week North Wilkesboro just wasn't all too kind to him. Of course, he got off to a great start at Daytona, winning that race, but he really is going to need to turn things around and enter tonight to well back in points after things really looked up for him after that win at Daytona to start off the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast chase. But he's going to slide back into second here. Here comes Jason Gracias now to the inside of John Cannizzaro. The Badcraft number 1 Chevy Silverado started in the 4th position, still running in the 4th position here so far. In fact, we've got some good comers and goers. Travis White up 6 spots here in the opening 5 laps. Matt Cherry, he's gained 4 spots as he takes the race lead away. And oh my goodness, that was mighty close between Jason Gracias and John Cannizzaro Jr. And I'll tell you what, I think we need to keep our eyes on these two, Drew. These two have been nose to tail over the last couple of weeks, getting really racy with one another. And we'll keep an eye and see if any of those two come into contact here over the next few races, because we're winding down in this championship. We're coming towards championship night, which of course will be at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Going to be a lot of fun to wrap things up at Atlanta next weekend. That's right, next week is championship night here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. It is, in fact, the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series night. But speaking of tonight's race sponsor, of course, we just talked about sponsors. A big shout out to Adam Dama all the way from Korea sponsoring tonight's race. The Frayed Knot Threads Nitro Memorial. In fact, we have a picture here tonight of Nitro. It is Nitro. There is Nitro. It is a memorial race for Adam Dama's pup, and we're going to kind of have him on the stream here tonight, but want to bring him into the picture here. Did not get to mention that in the pre-race with the good old iRacing update, but the good news is the iRacing update did not break the ticker. I fixed the ticker finally, and it doesn't seem like it's broke that. And so I was going to be extremely disappointed, Drew, if iRacing broke the ticker with its most recent update. But it seems like all is good here as we got some good racing up the front of the field, as well as some great racing mid-pack around Adam Newton. And looks like Ben Mashburn is involved in this battle for the 13th position or so.
Yeah, I mean, heck, 13th, 10th, there's not a whole lot separating that big old group of trucks right here, as Ben Mashburn is racing side by side with that number 29 machine of Adam Newton, with Nathan Maurer just in front, along with that 23 of Travis White. And yeah, just kind of 2 by 2 guys really mixing it up, shuffling around 2 of our championship contenders in that bright orange 971, and then that white and red number 11 are kind of, I think, back a little further than they would like to be running right now. But I think that, I mean, just kind of knowing the trend of Chris Darling and what he likes to do, probably saving his stuff is that number 11 machine. And probably Nathan Maurer as well, as he has been one of those trucks that has just really, I mean, come as close as you can to nailing strategy without getting a win in the chase, because that 971, it feels like every single race has figured out a way to find a strategy that puts him up towards the front. I think he has been, I mean, I shouldn't say surprising, as he is a 2-time winner here in the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series, but definitely this season, I don't think he had showed the pace that he has shown here in the chase, Peter. He has just been so impressive, as has, quite frankly, the rest of our top four. I think at this point, I was not at this point, I should say, but given where we are in the championship, it's pretty remarkable that we have four drivers within striking distance, considering if we go to Daytona, considering North Wilkesboro, just the consistency that our top four have put in through these past few races has been pretty remarkable.
That is for sure. And speaking of consistent, John Cannizzaro was consistent over the first couple of races here in the chase, now trying to hound down Matt Cherry, who's got himself clean air on the nose of the number 54. And you and I know, Drew, that clean air on the nose of that Stay Tuned Sports with Jimbo F-150, probably making that 54 even a little bit looser than the way he usually races his truck here in this series. It seems like always that 54 is dead sideways, but dead side by side is the number 1 and the number 12 as Jason Gracias tries to pick up that second position for the first time here tonight. 12 laps in. If you're just now joining us on 3Y TV, we want to welcome you on in, and you can join us and become one of our pit crew members for just $1 a month. Get some special emotes. Stay Tuned Sports jumped in on that train here tonight, and Stay Tuned Sports, why don't you use some of those custom emotes in the chat here tonight? Give us some of those 3-wide TV logos that you can use there, or use kind of the test fail screen emote as well. Looks like he's having some beverage of choice. What are you drinking here tonight, Stay Tuned Sports? It looks like you might have a glass of whiskey or something by your side. And of course, a big sponsor of us here on in the National Sim Racing Association. If you want to listen to the Stay Tuned Sports podcast, there's a link to their Podbean in the description of the video. And always a big supporter of us here on 3Y TV as well. So we really appreciate you joining us here on the 3Y TV pit crew, as this battle for the race lead now starts to heat up between Jason Gracias, who just moved up into the second position, and the number 54 with Stay Tuned Sports on the hood. So far, so good for Matt Cherry, Drew.
Yeah, I think one guy I want to point out is the driver running in 5th position, Stan Hausman. A guy that I think runs really, really well at restrictor plate tracks, but doesn't always, I think, have raw pace at tracks like Auto Club. But, I mean, he certainly has the raw pace here tonight in 5th, running that second groove through 1 and 2, maybe trying to save his right front a little bit. And then Peter, this track does give itself the opportunity, or give drivers the opportunity on fresh tires to run side by side, to make a lot of passes. But as these tires wear, establishing that track position is going to become more and more crucial in situating yourself properly in these first 15 laps, like Stan Hausman's done, and quite frankly, like we're seeing that number 11 machine of Chris Darlin doing, which we expected him to get stronger as these runs goes on. This run goes on, that it becomes so much harder to pass because of these warm tires, that making sure that you have that track position early while not abusing your stuff is so critical. And that's what's really impressing me about Stan Hausman and Chris Darling thus far. And then I'm waiting to see, with those top 3, top 4, those guys that have been running up front this whole race, Jason Gracias, Matt Cherry, John Cannizzaro, and Philip Scott, have they done it at the expense of their equipment? We know we've seen John Cannizzaro burn off his tires in the past. We know we've seen Philip Scott do the same. We've seen Matt Cherry just crank that thing on sideways when he starts to get some worn tires. So we will see how that all unfolds, as now the one of Jason Gracias has kind of established himself as the race lead. And Peter, one thing I'm wondering is, do you think these guys are ever going to get to the point here tonight where they're going to be able to start running away from the rest of this field if they think, or if they demonstrate a little bit more pace than everybody else? Or do you think that this draft is going to continue to keep this field tight throughout the race?
I think we're just now starting to see that the field is starting to split up just a little bit. It's getting a little bit more strung out. The draft here is going to be important, especially with these trucks, because they are rather boxy for a race vehicle, let's be honest. But that allows them to punch such a big hole in the air that the draft becomes more important to maintain, it becomes difficult to make a pass without having the draft off the back of another truck around you. As Matt Cherry says, you know what? I got a little bit of a shove from John Cannizzaro. I'm going to try and use that extra energy to take the lead back. But now, Drew, he's lost the draft, or had lost the draft off the back of the number 1 machine. As we're hearing something's happened to Jeff Price. What has happened to the number 14 machine? He is on pit road. The back channel production Chevy Silverado coming down pit road right now. And I think this is a little bit early, Drew. I did not expect to see drivers on the pit road at this stage of the race. So we'll see if this is just an unscheduled pit stop for Jeff Price. He's coming into his pit box. That crew will go to work, give him some 4 fresh tires. Hopefully he can get back out there. But right now, it was actually going to be a really good example of what I was just saying, that it's really difficult to make a pass without the draft because, you know, the number 12 and the 54, they kind of shared the draft off the back of Jason Gracias. Well, now, seems like Cannizzaro is up into second as Jeff Price is working his way back up onto the racing surface. There he is, just checking to see whether or not that was a 4-tire pit stop. It was indeed, so not sure if that was scheduled or not there, Drew, but definitely seemed to be a little bit early for Jeff Price in this one.
Yeah, it did. Interesting. Maybe he's thinking this thing will go green, and he thinks he can make it on however many stops everyone else is going to have to make, given this race playing out. But one thing that's, I think, interesting that we've seen thus far is Jason Gracias really manipulating the draft to kind of keep those guys racing behind him and not challenging him, as Adam Newton is challenging the 4 machine for that 10th position. Peter, we've kind of talked about those statistical positions. 5th and 10th, I think, are those positions that guys tend to race just a little bit harder. You want that top 5, you want that top 10, because that racing doesn't really record podiums. It does record top 5s and top 10s. Oh my goodness, that was a move by Ben Mashburn that could have gone horribly wrong. And that was about a 10th of a second later, as the 29 now trying to really roll that high lane. And that's what we're seeing, Peter. I think this high lane, as these tires run, is becoming more and more viable, as that was way up the track with that 29 machine that time, and he was almost able to keep up with the 4. Now we're just looking at basically the next group of trucks behind the battle we were just looking at. That's the 25 of Randy Perdue, the number 23 machine of Travis White, the number 2 of Justin White, all racing right here and trying to make a 3-truck battle 3 wide. Oh, the 25 really chopped his nose there, Peter. I think that 23 led out of the gas right there. Travis White, I think, cut that 25 a break because that was not clear, and I thought that 25 was going to get pushed into the outside wall.
Yeah, a couple of chase drivers in this group as well, because you can see those chase drivers with the green accents, like the number 4 of Ben Mashburn here. So this is the battle technically for the 9th position, as the number 77 of Doug Neal leads this small pack of trucks. But you're just starting to see now, Drew, some small groups forming, like this group of 4 we have seen up at the front of the field. This group of 5 or 6 now seems like kind of teetering on there being 4, 5, maybe 6 in this lead pack, but you're just starting to see some bigger gaps develop between these trucks as this run continues to go on, and I'm sure we'll kind of get a good look at it here as you see all these drivers kind of race on by all the way back to the back half of the field. There's Garrett Gleason back there. Who that is behind Garrett Gleason. I think that it is the number 6 machine of Doug Milner with the Mark Martin look on his Ford F-150 here tonight. Maybe a little bit of right rear damage as well. Not sure if that's hindering the number 6 here of Doug Milner or not, Drew, but he is running right now in the 21st position. Adam Dama, there is the driver who hails from the United States, but is racing from Korea. It is Saturday morning in Korea, where Adam Dama is racing from. And Adam, of course, sponsoring the race here tonight. We'll see if we can kind of get to that picture of his dog. Of course, it is the Nitro Memorial. Nitro is the name of the dog. Let's see if we can get that kind of in the bottom left-hand screen here, kind of going forward. But I'll tell you what, Drew, right now, doing kind of a good job in that number 28, keeping things nice and clean in the 16th position as they run. Best battle on the racetrack right now, though, is still this battle for ninth. Looks like Ben Mashburn, while we were away, has taken over that spot. Tristan Maher in the number 17, also getting around the number 77 of Doug Neal, who has fallen from 9th back to 12th in a hurry. We'll see if he falls back into the clutches of the chase driver, the number 2 of Justin White. But so far, green flags all the way. No caution flag. We're working lap number 25 here, and it looks like these race trucks are fairly well handling here tonight. I haven't seen any kind of get away from any of these drivers, Drew. I'm not sure if they're tight or not, but they seem to be driving all very well. I haven't even seen anyone make any contact with the outside wall. It's been a very clean opening 25 laps.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that sentiment, Peter, as we've seen some guys kind of chomping each other's noses off, but there hasn't been any out-of-shape trucks or whatnot. The Auto Club, I mean, now I'm going to kind of show how much I'm not necessarily a super active participant in the official stuff in iRacing, especially on the oval side. The old Auto Club, right, you were, especially with the early Gen 6 cars, especially with the COT, right, you were driving the car with the throttle the whole time. It was just kind of turn into the corner, set the wheel kind of neutral, and just kind of let the throttle turn the car for you. But definitely with these lower horsepower numbers, I think you don't quite see that nearly as much as you did in the past with those high horsepower packages. Although hearing and seeing some pretty encouraging things about this new Gen 7, next gen, whatever you want to call it, car, about drivers kind of having to actually drive the thing again instead of driving down the freeway like they have been for the past few seasons. But up front, Peter, kind of want to let you know about a development. Jason Grassi is still our race leader. John Canizaro still in second. Up in third position, there you go, is that number 11 machine of Chris Darling hounding the back of that number 12. And there you go, Peter. This is Chris Darling's MO. He just waits, lets his tires kind of do their thing, lets everybody else burn theirs off, and then here comes that 11. Almost every single race late in the run, that's when he is making his move. That number 11 machine started, Peter, outside of our top 10, and boom, there he is in third position. Great job by Chris Darling in letting that truck come to him, letting those tires come up to temp, come up to pressure the way they need to, instead of kind of wheeling it and muscling it like I and many others tend to do, which is just kind of, to actively engage that vehicle, to actively engage those tires and drive the tires off that thing. Chris is just so good at making sure that he doesn't abuse his stuff and is so good late in runs. And that's where I kind of think that the guy that we're riding on board with right now tends to struggle, Peter. I think John Canizaro is a guy that I think in one lap pace, as we saw here tonight, tends to have as much pace as anybody out there, but I think sometimes he's a little too aggressive with his equipment, with his tires, and he can burn that stuff off a little bit, and that's where I think the guys in front of him and the guy immediately behind him, kind of, that's their strength, is they manage to be quick without burning their stuff off.
Yeah, we do have this 5-truck group up at the front of the field, just pulling away from Stan Hausman just a little bit. Meanwhile, there's some other groups of trucks out there. This one right here, Justin White has close in on the back of Ben Mashburn. Mashburn has also run down the number 51 of Adam Leichty. So this group right here currently being scored from 9th down to the 11th position, or excuse me, 12th position of Adam Newton right there, but not a whole lot of side-by-side racing as their tires continue to wear out. We expect to see these trucks on pit road here relatively shortly, maybe around lap number 40 to lap number 45. Maybe if you're lucky, you can stretch it all the way to the halfway cross flags, and if you can do so, you can only make you might only have to make one pit stop here tonight. That could be important by the drop of the checkered flag. Just checking out the chat here. Stay Tuned Sports saying, hey, me and my wife are arguing, how do you pronounce melee? Well, that's how I pronounce melee, is melee, like M-A-Y-L-A-Y. It's a very odd spelling versus pronunciation, but that's how it is. And he says, I'm glad I didn't make my drinking game take a shot for every caution. You would be completely sober so far here tonight. Hopefully that is not your drinking game. And question is, what is your drinking game? It's probably me saying something that I repeat habitually over and over and over again while doing broadcasts. And TYB323 saying, them some fast pick-em-up trucks. They are some fast pick-em-up trucks, and they almost made contact going off towards turn number 1 as Justin White there and Adam Leichte in the numbers 51 getting a little bit close here, Drew, as you can start to see some of the leaders pulling away off into the distance.
Yeah, we are just past our 1/3 mark of this race under green flag conditions the entire way. And the field's certainly starting to kind of pull itself apart and kind of stratify into groups of battles. Basically, our top 4, Steenhouseman a little bit behind those, then Nathan Maurer, Tristan Maher, Justin White, who is that number 2 machine, and basically this battle, which consists of that 29 of Adam Newton, that's Adam Leichte, and that 51, and then the 4 machine of Ben Mashburn. Those guys are racing right at the tail end, just out of the top 10, depending on where they're running. But back up front, that number 12 machine, John Cannizzaro, at least right now in front of the number 1 of Jason Gracias. We'll see if he's able to maintain that. And Peter, this is kind of something that I wanted to bring up actually a little bit, is that, the number 1, Jason Gracias, onto pit road as pit stops now beginning here on lap 33. But, and we'll see if this goes well or poorly, is not a terribly challenging pit road, but you're just going so fast here at Auto Club that it can be a real big challenge to get that thing slowed down in time. But I think that being kind of the 4th out of the 4 championship contenders kind of frees John Cannizzaro up to maybe apply a little bit of pressure and aggressiveness to the 1 and the other guys that he's racing with. I don't think the 12 ever necessarily is lacking in aggression, but I think even more so tonight, you got a lot less to lose than the 1 does at this point. You're not the 1 in the championship lead, and so maybe we'll see that kind of play out tonight, as now John Cannizzaro, Chris Darling, and darn near the rest of the field. I think a couple drivers, that's the 33 and the 88, I believe, are staying out, but just about everybody else coming down pit road, Peter.
Yeah, they're all coming down pit road to their pit crew. Just checking to see. Looks like Philip Scott, Matt Cherry, Jeffrey Johnson Jr., Nick Kessler have all stayed out. Hopefully the 12 of Cannizzaro gets into his pit box nice and neatly. I was a little bit concerned he was going to overshoot his box there for a second there, Drew, but he was able to find his pit crew without accruing any significant time issues. Here comes the number 99, Philip Scott, onto pit lane. A little wiggle there as he gets on the brakes late to just slow it down. Might have just locked up the rears for a split second. Matt Cherry looking to the inside. This will almost complete the first round of pit stops. Jeffrey Johnson Jr. and Nick Kessler, the 2 still circling out there on the racetrack, waiting to make their green flag pit stops. But I'll tell you what, Drew, if you had told me that we were going to see a green flag run to get green flag pit stops off the bat, I would have been a little bit surprised, because this racetrack has a tendency, with it being so fast and kind of, it's a very wide track, but for whatever reason, you get some really good 3-wide action here that's really tight, really close. The margin for error at this particular racetrack when you're jostling around with the other trucks is very minimal, as now Jeffrey Johnson Jr. comes down pit road, and only that driver right there, as Mr. Cameraman has problems keeping an eye on Nick Kessler, is the only driver still left in the field circling on 36-lap old tires. So he will be coming down pit road, and a little bit of right front damage is apparent on the number 88 Chevy Silverado. Taz Racing Customs, sponsor of the biggest mover of the race award here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. But I would expect to see here, Drew, that Nick Kessler will be getting I was going to say he was going to get on the brakes, but proved me wrong because I'm the commentator, and that's what these drivers like to do.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to save a lot of fuel. He's going to have to make it to what, lap 47, 48? I mean, at least to lap 47 if he wants to cut a whole pit stop out, and I just don't know how you're going to run 10 more laps here. Yeah, these guys are running 100% fuel. I believe, Peter, that was a mid-season change this year that they decided to run 100% fuel. Of course, I'm always in support of 100% fuel. I know why leagues run less, but if you're running default iRacing setups in a fixed setup series, I think it's always wise to run full fuel, as that's what the setups are made for. Otherwise, you get some unwieldingly tight setups, aka understeery, aka front end losing grip before the rear end, and not for me a whole lot of fun to drive those. I know, Peter, you and I have both experienced running a lot less fuel than the setups were intended in the past, and kind of the repercussions handling wise of that. So I hugely applaud that by NSRA in that decision, as Chris Darling didn't have the greatest pit stop entry in and off of pit road, and I will make sure that we do not have to unblow the kazoo that we did not blow, Peter, with Chris Darling and his pit stall shenanigans potentially, because that 11 sure lost a lot of track position.
Yeah, definitely a longer pit lane time on Chris Darling in the number 11 machine. Let's see if we can bring up that graphic as Nick Kessler continues to circle as your race lead. But this is what we call the pit lane time, and that's a good look at majority of the field there. And pit lane time is the amount of time you're on pit lane from when you slow down, hit the first cone line, and then once you are released from pit lane, that time is your pit lane time. Pretty self-explanatory, honestly. But Matt Cherry there with a 49.4, great pit lane time. That's one of the fastest times on there. Travis White had a 48.9. But then you look at drivers like Chris Darling, a 52.8. Drew, losing almost 3 seconds to some of your competitors on pit road is huge. It's not easy to find 3 seconds on the racetrack. It's so difficult to make that up. That can be the difference between you winning the race and losing the race at the very end when the checkered flag falls. So right now, if I'm Chris Darling, you got to get that out of your head. You got to get that compartmentalized. You might learn from your mistakes. Maybe he had some mistakes. Not sure if he missed his pit box. Not sure if you're doing any sleuthing there, Drew, or not on replay. But Chris Darling, definitely one of the big losers in this round of green flag pit stops. Nick Kessler finally elects to come down pit road to his pit crew. He will be the last driver of all. I thought they could make about 40 laps based off of my calculations, Drew. We see Nick Kessler here coming down at the end of lap number 41. So he's not quite able to make it to the halfway mark, so we do expect to see 2 pit stops at least for 3 stints. But up at the front of the field, Jason Gracias has been caught by John Cannizzaro Jr. These two have gone back and forth, battling for the lead the past couple of weeks, and now Cannizzaro, on 1 lap fresher tires, mind you, Drew, has caught Jason Gracias. Could that 1 lap difference in tires be a big advantage here for Cannizzaro?
It's not going to hurt him, especially given, I think, the one's propensity to be a little quicker on those longer runs. I mean, it can almost kind of offset your tire wear disadvantage over your competitors, and we saw Cannizzaro's really good, to use an F1 terminology, delta time on and off of pit road relative to the one. I think that kind of made up for his slower on track lap that you kind of just lose time, obviously, on older tires versus somebody who pits a lap earlier. And so, yeah, I think it's an advantage to the 12 The question for me is, Peter, is it enough of an advantage for him to not only clear the one, but then be able to be fast enough to not let the draft keep that one right with him? I think that's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on, as the 51 of Adam Lighty, Adam Newton, and Justin White in that number 2 machine, and the 23 of Travis White all battling here for 9th position. And I had a little scare. We saw those trackside lights that show if it's under green or under yellow. I could have sworn that they looked a little yellow there. Glad that didn't happen, as we are, of course, Peter, rapidly approaching halfway. Only about 2.5, 3 laps till we hit halfway here at Auto Club in the Afraid Not Threads Nitro Memorial 190. And Peter, interesting that they chose 190. I don't think I've ever seen a race distance at 190 miles. Have you?
I was trying to figure out that myself. I was actually doing the math in my head earlier, and I'm like, well, that's not 200. That's 190. Okay, we'll go with that. But John Cannizzaro Jr., he wants to lead the halfway mark. We're just now 3 laps away from seeing the cross flags here at Auto Club Speedway. We'll make that 2 laps away from seeing the cross flags at this 2-mile D-shaped oval. I know, Drew, this is a particular racetrack that you yourself have been to in the past in person and experienced some sweltering heat, just to put it politely. Some exorbitant weather here for that IndyCar race many years past now. But a very fun racetrack that now the track has aged, of course, with the caveat that the rumor mill has it that this particular racetrack will be completely converted into a short track from a 2-mile D-shaped speedway to a very tight short track that mimics Martinsville Speedway, which I would absolutely abhor. I like short tracks, but honestly, this racetrack is just now gotten to be so good, so fast, and so fun to drive, not only in the sim, but in real life as well. And they're thinking of tinkering with it and completely neutering it, if you ask me. I'm not a big fan of that, but maybe it will bring more people to the racetrack. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, as somebody who did live in Southern California for about half a decade, and did go to quite a few NASCAR races and IndyCar races here at Auto Club, I don't think making it smaller is going to make more people come. I think the location is kind of a pain in the butt, kind of being in inner or inland Los Angeles. If you are familiar with LA traffic, not a lot of fun to drive a decent distance, and LA is absolutely massive. So Fontana's, I think it's a good 40, 50, 60 miles from downtown LA. So a good solid drive. And I think, from what I've read, Peter, the big reasoning for turning it into a short track is, I don't know if you've heard about land values in Southern California, but they're pretty high. And so with a smaller track, you can sell off that excess land and make a pretty penny. And I think that's what the owners of Auto Club Speedway are looking at. As it is a shame. I did go to that unfortunate 2014. It was 2013 or 14. I think it was 14. I think it was Will Power's title, where I am not joking. It was 107 degrees at the Speedway. I thought I was going to pass out several times. The racing wasn't very good. It was back when IndyCar had their horrible kind of big speedway package. I wouldn't consider Auto Club a super speedway. It kind of isn't an IndyCar, but I think I saw about 3 passes on track, and I almost passed out more times than I saw cars pass each other. So interesting times, but yeah, it's a shame to see it go. I think it does look a lot like Michigan. I think it races totally different than Michigan. You can use the whole track as opposed to Michigan. You really can't use that bottom lane, especially for 1 and 2. So I think it would be a shame if they reconfigure it. Hopefully, if they do, it'll be something different than what we have now. It won't be a Martinsville. It won't be a Bristol. I mean, and with North Wilkesboro hopefully being revitalized, hopefully it won't be that either. I mean, I don't want to see it go, but if they do, I I would love something, I mean, obviously not mirroring because I want this track to kind of be revitalized as well, but kind of like a North Carolina or Rockingham, as it's better known, would be kind of an interesting example. Maybe make maybe a smaller version of Rockingham, a little high bank, a little bumpy. I know Rockingham's not bumpy by design; it's because the soil there. But it's I kind of have mixed feelings. I just don't think reconfiguring the track is going to solve attendance problems. I think you need to move it to Orange County or something if you want to solve those problems. But we'll see. I mean, it's also in the middle of an industrial park, so it's where probably land is not the most expensive in Los Angeles. But on track, real estate's really expensive, as these guys are really mixing it up between John Cannizzaro, Jason Gracias, and Matt Cherry, running nose to tail, and then that 11 machine has finally gotten by the 99 of Philip Scott. Of course, Chris Darling now running in fourth. And Peter, this is the thing, John Cannizzaro, tire advantage, but he's not quite quick enough to be able to pull away from Jason Gracias. And so now this 11 can kind of do the inverse and just let his tires rest as long as he can keep that 54 behind him, which is a tall ask. Because again, Matt Cherry and John Cannizzaro, I think, have very similar aggression levels, and they're not going to allow you to just save your stuff in front of them without trying to make a move on you. But the one's not in a horrible position. Hopefully you're allowing that 12 to burn their stuff off. Although, Peter, am I correct in thinking that I'm seeing a little bit of right front damage on the number one of Jason Gracias?
That's something we can zoom in on here in just a moment. Now, one thing I did want to mention, Drew, is that middle number, L34, as Jason Shu catches the wall there. Matt Cherry actually has fresher tires than the number one of Jason Gracias and John Cannizzaro Jr. And a little bit of left rear damage on John Cannizzaro Jr. as well. I wonder if these two might have made a little bit of contact. It's kind of hard to see there, Drew, but you can just barely make out a wrinkle in the iRacing damage model on his Chevy Silverado. So it does look like I was correct. A little bit of right front damage that might affect the aerodynamic performance of the number one truck. Of course, iRacing very finicky. Sometimes you can have a racetrack that looks completely borkin, and it's perfectly fine. So we'll see whether or not that happens, as Jason Gracias wants to prove that wrong, as he's just going to go back up to the race lead, get around John Cannizzaro Jr., and try and leave Matt Cherry in the dust as well. We do have a question in the chat. Of course, we've been talking about kind of changes to this racetrack in particular. John Cannizzaro Jr. going around the outside, but Stay Tuned Sports has asked us, what do you think are nicer looking? The new iRacing trucks, the new truck bodies that are going to be in iRacing and in NASCAR, or the new gen cars, the next gen NASCARs that are out there. And Drew, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't think that the NASCAR trucks have been attractive since around maybe 2005. That is my personal opinion. I think that they just look too gaudy, if that's even a thing. Like, it's everything is so pronounced on these trucks. Every line is just sharp, and I don't know, not my favorite, to be perfectly honest with you. I would err on the side of the next gen cars, as Cannizzaro gets back in front of Jason Gracias here on lap number 57.
Yeah, I like the new truck bodies. I think if you don't like the way the new gen-ish, whatever you want to call the new body style trucks, if you don't like the way they look, kind of blame the manufacturers for designing, in my opinion, not beautiful road vehicles with beds on the back. Not a fan with the way truck design's gone as a whole. If you took the badges on basically all the trucks and you told me which one was a Chevy, Ford, Toyota, whatever, I would not be able to tell you the difference. I think they all look the freaking same. I guess the Dodge kind of looks a little different because it looks like a big boat. But the trucks look better. The next-gen bodies, the actual bodies and decals for the lights and taillights and everything like that, with no scheme or number on it, look fantastic. I've started to warm up to the new number placement. I would consider myself kind of a traditionalist, especially when it comes to stuff that is causing no harm to anything. I don't think change for the sake of change is always progress. I think the new number placement, although understandable in motivations, is a mistake and is aesthetically appalling. So if they fix the numbers, if they, like, honestly, okay, big soapbox. This is a huge soapbox for me, Peter. I apologize for going down my soapbox as we're looking for at a fantastic battle for the race lead. Why can't they just do V8 supercar numbers and put them on the little quarter windows? I just don't understand why if you want to maximize dollars and cents for sponsorship, why can't you just do V8 supercar numbers? Why, Peter? Why?
You're preaching to the choir. I absolutely agree. And I actually personally wish that they would get rid of the spoilers for the road courses. I think they would look absolutely legit if for all of the road course races, they run a rear spoiler that actually looks like a wing. You know, something that you would find on a modern road car. You know, a lot of these modern road cars have some type of performance package or an SE model that has a little rear spoiler or a little rear wing or something, but just add an extra element. Those cars are already mostly unique, mostly configured for running road courses and not just turning left, which they do on all the ovals. So why not just add a rear wing? I think it would look really cool. And that's similar to what you would say in terms of the number placement on the car being similar to a V8 supercar. But if you put a wing on them, I think they look a lot like a V8 supercar. I think they look really neat. And of course, NASCAR did kind of have the wing era a while ago. It looks like we got a couple of drivers on their next round of pit stops here. Sandhausen coming on pit road. We just saw the number 11 Chris Darling coming off pit road. Presumably making what will be their final green flag pit stop if we indeed go all the way caution-free. How crazy would that be here in the penultimate race of the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series season? But, I mean, I agree with you. Number should either be on the door or on the rear window. That's very visible, and I say the rear window kind of the one behind, what is that, the A pillar that's back there. So I don't know, but I really would love to see a wing on the road courses. I think that would make them look really cool. But I am excited for what the next-gen cars are going to bring. I like the fact that they're going to a lower rear spoiler, that they're adding the horsepower. Hopefully that improves the product that NASCAR hasn't exactly had for a while, in my opinion. They just need to get rid of stage brakes, in my personal opinion. And then maybe I'll actually start racing or watching racing anymore instead of a race with some fictitious cautions in it that, in my opinion, takes away from the whole racing aspect. But here is the number 28 of Adam Dama. He's on pit road in his pit box right now. Jeffrey Johnson Jr. also on pit road. Garrett Gleason in the Speed Energy number 7 machine. Once we hopefully get things cycled on through here, we will do a through the field so we can highlight where all of your favorite drivers are out there on the field. But since we're in the middle of a green flag cycle, we will kind of hold off on that at least for now. With John Cannizzaro Jr., your current race leader, just got passed by the number 11 of Chris Darling, who unlapped himself. Now we see Jason Gracias coming down onto pit lane. Philip Scott, National Ninja League F-150, doing really good there, Drew. If he got down to the pit road speed limit, it looked like he gained a heck of a lot on the number 1 Bagcraft machine.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this is all playing out. Of the trucks that have pitted, Chris Darling is our leader as they run, although we have to see where the number 1 and 99 come through on this. Did the 99 get a pit road penalty? Can the 1, that looks too far forward? No, he must be right on the edge of being too far forward. Is the number 1 of Jason Gracias. The number 99, will he be? Yeah, I mean, they're servicing his truck, so there's no penalty there. As okay, well, maybe the number 11 didn't. I don't know. I thought the 12 pitted. Woo, that's sideways for John Canizaro, though. So I totally kind of misled you. Although the 11 is getting by Jason Gracias now. But now the number 12 waited 2 more laps. Peter, we got some camera shake going on from trucks going by on track for that number 12 machine. Looking at John Canizaro exiting pit lane. That's a pretty cool effect there, Peter, that the camera shakes when trucks go by when that camera's kind of zoomed in like that.
Yeah, it's actually something that is somewhat scalable, and perhaps that is turned up a little bit too high for that particular camera here on the racetrack. It's something I might turn down after this particular event. But we are closing in on 30 laps to go here in a Frayed Knots Red Nitro Memorial 190. There's a picture of Nitro on left-hand corner of the screen. Of course, Adam Dama's pup memorial for kind of a sad thing, but also great to see a good picture of Nitro here on the screen down there in the bottom left-hand corner of the window here. And thanks to everyone joining us here on 3Wide TV here tonight. If you have not hit the like button, make sure you do so. We really appreciate all of you joining us on the channel here tonight, getting to see this great action. If you're just now joining us, green flag since the drop of the green flag at the beginning of the race. Just now working lap number 66. Just a couple of laps away from most of these drivers making their final pit stop. Nathan Maurer in the 971 machine, though, Drew, he's so far staying out. We know the pit window is open for these drivers to make it to the end, and I don't blame him. Maurer, if you would look at the point standings, oops, sorry about that, folks, hit the button more than once. If you look at the point standings, if you are Nathan Maurer, you're 24 points behind Chris Darling and Jason Gracias. Drew, there's only one race left after tonight, and that's at Atlanta next week. Nathan Maurer has not had the pace of Jason Gracias here tonight. He has not had the pace of Chris Darling. But if he catches a lucky yellow as he comes down pit road to throw my ideas out the window, I was just going to say, if he got a lucky yellow, which we haven't seen any here tonight, he'd kind of be in a good spot, and I would have said that, he would have been in kind of the catbird seat. But, he comes down pit road to throw my strategy out of the window. He knew he might be too far left. Oh, he is too far left. Is he still too far left? Nope. There we go. He's in his pit box. Not good for Nathan Maurer. That will increase that pit lane time that we were talking about a little while ago. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Chris Darling is ahead of Matt Cherry, who's in front of Jason Gracias, and Matt Cherry pitted one lap before Jason Gracias here, Drew. And Chris Darling, of course, pitted several laps before Matt Cherry, so some older tires on the number 11 machine, but he is out front of this particular group. Adam Newton in the number 29 machine is yet to make his second pit stop of the night and is being scored as a race leader. It's Randy Perdue in the number 25 is coming down to his pit box right now, leaving only Adam Newton still circling on his 30-plus lap old tires. But this is the de facto race for the lead, with Chris Darling trying to hold off Matt Cherry and Jason Gracias.
Yeah, big ask for this number 11 is, the 1 and the 54 get together. Wow, the 54, no surprise that Matt Cherry driving that thing, but I think that 1 has some decent damage on his left front now. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Oh, the 54 just, I don't know, did he lose the rear or the front? That truck took off though, Peter, whatever the cause, and that certainly, I think, hurt both those trucks, although the 1, damage-wise, looks the roughest of the two. And what did you see? Did you think the 54 got loose or tight?
Well, I think we'll get a good look at this one right here. It looks like the 54 just hit the seam, that little black seam that's there in between the different strips of asphalt, and just lost the front end on that car. Maybe also lost the front end with a little bit of aero push off the back of Chris Darling. But that is very rare to see that from Matt Cherry, who's usually wrecking loose. But like Gracias was able to get ahead of the 54, trying to close back down on the number 11 machine. It's Darling in the Taz Racing Customs F-150 is your race leader. 25 laps to go here on 3 Wide TV. Thanks to everyone joining us here tonight in the chat. Johnny Williams has checked in saying good luck all and hello to the booth. Johnny, hope all is well with you, not out there on the racetrack here tonight, but sitting down and joining us as we are reaching the final stages of the race tonight, Drew, and Jason Gracias looking back for the lead. I would think maybe Canizaro's led more laps than Gracias here tonight so far, but Chris Darling not backing down without a fight, as now John Canizaro, speaking of the Maxwell Howell Chevy Silverado driver, starting to sneak back into the picture up there at the top of the screen. Canizaro pitted 1 lap after Jason Gracias in this most recent round of pit stops, as Gracias sweeps on by the number 11 and becomes the race leader once again.
I'd like to point out, this actually, technically, Peter, is not a battle for the race lead right now. The number 29 of Adam Newton is staying out. So these guys are approximately 20.75 seconds behind the 29 who is now pitting. But Jason Gracias did not lead that lap, which might be critical to determining who gets the most laps led. It's kind of hard to figure that out in real time, especially when I don't have those fancy graphics to look at. But I think this 11 kind of has his hands full right now of Chris Darling. Maybe he ran that thing off a little too hard after that pit stop and is now kind of suffering the consequences of that, because he is being hounded by Matt Cherry. And John Canizaro, Peter, certainly not out of this, as he's in 4th position. That truck tug, there we go, that Maxwell House number 12, running just behind this battle for 2nd position. And one thing that I've noticed, Peter, that bottom lane really is strong with these fresh tires. It'll be interesting to see, can John Canizaro follow that number 54? I think the 54 is trying to kind of tactically cover off that bottom lane by giving draft to that number 11, which he's able to do. Now I think if you're John Canizaro, you've got to take this 3 wide or try to force this right here. There he goes. He runs that high lane, carries a ton of momentum. Is he going to be able to keep it off the outside wall? He does. And now the 12's in a great position to get some good, strong drafting down the backstretch and potentially clear the number 11. Not quite clear through 3 and 4, but I think he's, the 11 lost the nose right there. Peter, that was so similar to what we just saw from the 54. It seems like these guys are really losing the nose of these trucks in the draft, and I thought that Chris Darling was going to wipe out John Canizaro right there.
Philip Scott in the National Ninja League F-150 looking for his first win of the season, also going to follow on by the 11 of Darling. As you can see, Darling again losing the front nose, losing just a little bit more time to this pack, as we ride on board with John Canizaro Jr., who was our CraigSetupShop.co.uk pole position award winner up at the top of the show. If you did not see it, big shout out to CraigSetupShop.co.uk for sponsoring that award. But look at right in front of John Canizaro, as we're again side by side for the race lead between a couple of drivers who made contact a little while ago. 20 more laps to go, 40 miles here at the Auto Club Speedway. Canizaro now starting to make some noise, giving a little bit of help to Jason Gracias, helping with the draft off the back. And you don't get as big of a draft if you do have a car behind you as you would with a car in front of you, but the airflow does come off that rear spoiler. That big spoiler that you see sticking up is a big source of drag for these trucks, and when you kind of get up close, it packs some air up together, and just due to the natural pressure differential that starts to develop, you can actually get some benefit when a truck's right behind you. As Canizaro says, I'm not going to follow the 54 of Cherry. I'm going to take it 3 wide on 3 Wide TV, as he tries to whip around the outside of Matt Cherry. The one of Gracias on the inside. And remember, Canizaro has 1 lap fresher tires than Jason Gracias, and he's just going to power around. And Drew, you said it earlier that the high line continues to get stronger as the tires wear down. Canizaro, what a huge move for the number 12 machine.
Yeah, I think what he really needs to see that 54 get by the one and then kind of maintain, because winning this race is really awesome for Cannizzaro, but he needs to put a lot more points between he and that number one to kind of make up that deficit that he's facing right now. And I expect that number 12 to be using every move that he knows to try to maybe be aggressive and definitely ensure the race win, but maybe put the one in a compromising position as well. As this is the run that number 12 needed, as we are well within 20 laps to go here, is 17 to go this time by. The question is, what does Jason Gracias have in reserve? What does that 54 have in reserve? And the 99 of Philip Scott's certainly not out of it, Peter.
Yeah, Philip Scott pitted here tonight last on lap number 63 with Jason Gracias. Now, we're not sure if Philip Scott might have had a longer pit stop than Gracias, because we saw him gain all that time coming onto pit road. Maybe Gracias had a better run off of pit lane back up onto the circuit, but Philip Scott has been reeling in on Gracias as this run continues to go on. Doug Neal in the number 77 machine has just left the racing surface. Let's see if something might have happened to Doug. No, Doug Neal just getting word that he came onto pit road, unscheduled pit stop. Hope all is well with Doug in the number 77 Simbox machine. But looks like his night is done. Started this race in the 9th position. And looks like he might leave the racetrack just a few laps early here tonight, folks. Hope all is well with him, that's for sure. I'm always a bit hesitant to say why a driver leaves the track when they leave with about 16 laps left. Nothing came up on my end, so I think something must have popped up that was more important than sim racing for Doug Neal in his number 77 truck. But a great battle for the race lead. Let's see if we can quickly kind of go through the field here, Drew. We'll kind of be keeping my eye on this battle for the lead. John Cannizzaro Jr. was our CraigSubShop.co.uk pole award winner, and he is right exactly where he started this race as your race leader. Has not led every lap here tonight. It has been a great battle between him and the couple of trucks behind him. In second spot right now is Jason Gracias with a little bit extra damage from the number 54 machine that we saw just a little while ago. But Gracias trying to add to his points lead, because remember, coming into tonight, in regards to the point standings, there you have it. Jason Gracias had a 21-point advantage over Chris Darling, 24-point advantage over Nathan Maurer. We'll highlight that. Only John Cannizzaro right now would gain points on Jason Gracias, but Gracias would have a great points lead heading into the Atlanta Motor Speedway next week. Matt Cherry riding in third, your Daytona winner a couple of weeks back in the chase here, Drew. Riding in third, been a strong night for Matt Cherry, and I wonder, Drew, if this race truck is a little bit tighter on the setup side of things, and maybe that's helping with the looseness that we typically see out of that 54.
They have to be tight, especially when we've seen a truck kind of temporarily lose control. It seems like the front has been the side of the truck that's been kind of lost. And so, yeah, it seems to be tight. If it was loose, I feel like we would have had quite a few cautions. There's just a long time that you can be sideways here at Auto Club because it's so freaking big. So, yeah, I think if it was loose, we probably would have had a caution or two. I think that the tight call is probably right as to what these guys are facing, which, yeah, I agree. It's probably helping that 54. The number 11, just to keep our viewers updated, 3 seconds behind our battle now in 5th position. I like that undercut call, but it's certainly not working out. It's so critical, Peter. I've noticed in iRacing in these recent builds that those first 3 or 4 laps on tires really determine what you're going to be able to do the rest of the race with those tires. And I think if you just push a little too hard, then that's probably going to be it for your tires for that run. And when you only have 2 changes of tires and 3 runs in the race, and this is the last one, it only takes a little bit of overuse and being at a tire deficit as far as laps are concerned, then that's what you're going to kind of see with the 11 starting to really fall back now. But these top 4, Peter, I mean, you could cover these things with a semi-truck cover, right? I mean, these guys are all within, I don't know, probably 50, 100 feet of each other. So pretty remarkable racing with these top 4, all within 6/10 of each other. Is from first position, not second, first through 4th position, with John Canizaro, Jason Gracias, Matt Cherry, and Philip Scott. Although it does seem, Peter, to me, here as we are rapidly coming up to 10 to go, once John Canizaro sees the start-finish line. Oh, I was going to say it seems like the 12 has done a pretty good job solidifying his race lead, but that was a pretty bad exit for John Canizaro, and now boom, Jason Gracias making a move with 10 to go.
10 laps to go. And of course, with tonight being the penultimate race of the championship, a lot more on the line for a couple of these drivers with the green banners. Jason Gracias, your points leader, entering into tonight. John Canizaro enters tonight 5th place in points. Heading down the backstretch off towards turn number 3, and Gracias again, Drew, finds some way to get himself up front late in one of these races. I was not expecting that, but like you said, bad exit for John Canizaro this time 1 lap ago. Allowed the 1 to get that run, and now Gracias is gonna chase the 12 almost all the way down to the apron, gonna throw a little bit of a late block, and now Canizaro looking back to the outside as we're down just to 9 more laps to go.
9 to go, Peter, is that number 1 and 12 having quite a battle. I think the 12's quicker. I think it was just one pretty substantial mistake as far as momentum was concerned. I think the 12 just quite frankly overdrove the center of 3 and 4, and then all of a sudden he couldn't get back to the throttle on exit. Although maybe the 12's burned up his stuff. We've seen John Canizaro do that in the past. What is the 3 of Jason Shu going to do? This could really determine the battle between these two. If he doesn't move, Peter, I don't know what's going to happen right here. The 3 of Jason Shu high on the track. Is that going to affect the 12? No, I think that was about the perfect timing, although Canizaro had to get out of the throttle. Can he carry that high lane? He's going to force it up high. Will the number 1 give him room? I think he will, and there he goes. What will the 54 Matt Cherry do? If Matt Cherry goes to the high side, it's going to be Canizaro. If not, he's going to make it 3 wide on the bottom. Oh, as there's contact, the number 1 and the number 12 both get together. That's going to give the lead to Matt Cherry.
Matt Cherry, your Daytona winner, taking advantage of a little bit of contact. Now he's got a little bit of clean air on the nose. Can he scoot away? My, oh my, that was almost huge. Drew, for a couple of our championship contenders, it almost went up in smoke in a hurry. That was a hugely opportunistic move by Matt Cherry. He says, you know what, Canizaro, Gracias, you two figure out what you're going to do. I'm just going to go down here to the low side. And of course, that's going to pull the number 99 of Philip Scott back into the fray as well in the National Ninja League machine. Ninja Phil, as Philip Scott is known. He is a American Ninja Warrior competitor in that number 99 machine. Has ninjaleague.com as well on the number 99, a league that he runs. As I think we're just going to have to wait for a lap or two for things to kind of reset here. Meanwhile, Tristan Maher has got around Christopher Darling. This is the battle for the 5th position. Darling trying to get as many points as he can here tonight to see if he can get to next week at the Atlanta Motor Speedway with a fighting chance at the championship. I think he will with that 5th place finish, regardless of what happens to Jason Gracias. All it takes, Drew, is a moment with, bad moment, something to go your way, a little bit of contact, some rubbing fenders, and your entire season can go up in smoke, and that's almost what happened to Jason Gracias there just a moment ago, as Matt Cherry trying to get his 2nd win of the season here tonight. But they've caught him again. They've closed in. Canizaro and the one of Gracias using that draft to erase that deficit with less than 10 miles to go.
Yeah, I just kind of went back and watched the replay myself, and in it was just kind of weird net codey thing. I mean, they kind of floated inside of each other's trucks for just a moment. Kind of a strange thing. I think that kind of saved some pretty severe net coding between the two. But Peter, it's if I make this move, if I'm John Cannizzaro on the bottom, is that going to cost me the momentum to be able to make this pass work? I think you got to kind of set up the 54. You got to keep that right front in clean air, and that's what he's trying to do. But I just don't know if he's going to be able to do it. Maybe this 12 of John Cannizzaro trying to wait to the last lap, although we know how dangerous that can be. The 54 blocks slow, although I think that kind of gives the 12 the preferred line through 3 and 4, as he's going to really send that thing on the high lane. The question is, what's going to happen on the front stretch? Where will Jason Gracias go? Will he go with John Cannizzaro? Will he go with the 54 Matt Cherry? It looks like he's going to keep it high with not Matt Cherry, but John Cannizzaro on that high lane with 3 laps to go.
Just 6 miles left at the Auto Club Speedway here tonight in California. The number 54 of Matt Cherry looking for his second win of the season. John Cannizzaro Jr. and Jason Gracias looking for not only their second win of the season, but those drivers trying to duke things out for their 4th wins. Well, excuse me, for Cannizzaro, his 4th win of the season, but if Gracias can go to victory lane, it'll be his 5th win of the season in just 14 starts. Coming around, 2 more laps to go. Drew, Matt Cherry doing all that he can to try and hold on to this race lead, but here comes Gracias, a big block from the number 54 machine, trying to hold on to this race lead.
Yeah, what will John Cannizzaro do with 2 to go? He's at the top, 3 wide. That can be the best position. It can also be the worst position. As is he going to be able to carry the momentum? There is a lap truck that's going to probably factor into this. What will happen down the backstretch with a lap and a half to go? We have 2 lap trucks, as a matter of fact, out in front. Vincent Valvano and Garrett Gleason running right there. Is the 12 had to cede room as the one of Jason Gracias threw that truck into 3 and 4. He's not going to be able to carry a ton of momentum out of turn 4. So now it's going to be 3 wide. Once again, an entire lap of 3 wide as we get the white flag.
The deck has been shuffled as the white flag comes out. A caution-free race here tonight. Now Cannizzaro side by side with Matt Cherry, and Cherry almost gets a little bit of contact from the back with Jason Gracias getting really close to that rear spoiler. But here comes the number 12 on the outside. Vincent Valvano is in the way. He's trying to keep out of the way, but the 54 throws a big block. They are going to go all the way here tonight. The 12 throws it into turn number 3. Matt Cherry, the 54, it's looking good for him coming out of turn number 4. Here he comes for the second time this season. Matt Cherry's going to go to victory lane. Cannizzaro second, third to Jason Gracias, who will extend his points lead going into next week at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. But Drew, that was by far, in my opinion, the best finish that we have seen all season long. And you gotta hand it to this driver right here, Matt Cherry, getting the job done. What a great race.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put a damper on things. I would have loved for a lap truck to, I think, kind of not determine the last lap of that. I definitely think, unfortunately, there was a truck that was not racing for the lead that kind of didn't allow for I think, the best finish that we could have had happen. But the 54 did what he needed to do. He got around that lap truck. He took advantage of contact between the 1 and the 12, and he held off a hard charging John Cannizzaro there at the end. I don't know where he's going to stand in points, but there's nothing else that this 54 could have done tonight of Matt Cherry in that Stay Tuned Sports machine. Great run by Matt Cherry. So competitive all night, and a great way to bring home your second win of the season.
I mean, by far, you know, I got to give it to Matt Cherry because he put himself in the spot to win that race. He took that moment, that opportunistic moment, to take it 3 wide and got himself in a spot where he could win this race, because I don't think if Matt Cherry acted when he acted, I don't think he's winning this race. I think he made a great call to take it 3 wide. There was that little bit of contact that may have helped, but I don't think he could have waited any longer, and he gets the Stay Tuned Sports truck into victory lane. And of course, Stay Tuned Sports becoming a pit crew member here on 3 Wide TV here tonight. It's a good night for Stay Tuned Sports in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Jimbo, hope you're doing well. And not to rub salt in the wounds, Stay Tuned Sports, about your wife, but Melee won 4 votes to 1, spelled or the pronunciation Melee instead of melee. So yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah, Melee is the winner. So good night for Jimbo here on 3 Wide TV. We got Mike Floppy Tellier in the chat saying that was a great race. Johnny Williams saying hell of a race. That definitely was an impressive run all the way. And Drew, green flag, not a single caution flag all night long here on 3 Wide TV. We didn't even get to name the flagman here tonight. Stay tuned, sports. Well, if we did, it'd probably be named Nitro here in the Frayed Not Threads, the Nitro Memorial 190. But of course, we do have to do our post-race duties here tonight, Drew. We're going to get to talk to our top 3 finishers and talk about that huge battle that they had all the way to the checkered flag. Let's see if we can start things with tonight's 3rd place finisher extending his points lead. Drew, take it away with Jason Gracias.
Mr. Jason Gracias, Drew Eisman up here in the 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Hello.
Well, I mean, your heart rate sounds pretty low. No surprise. Always a calm and cool customer whenever we talk to you. But good Lord, those last few laps. How did that thing go down through that front windshield?
We gave it all. I gotta apologize to John. I got into back of him maybe like 2 or 3 times, so wasn't intentional, but it was just more draft dependent than I thought it would be. I always figured with Auto Club, if you took care of your tires, you'd be okay on the long run. But with the cool temperature and the truck, it's just different than what I'm accustomed to. Even if you saved, the draft was just so strong, you could pull back up and just bide your time.
Yeah, and I was kind of surprised by the strength of the draft as well. When you noticed that was going to continue and be a major factor tonight, was there any adjustment that you had to do behind the wheel?
Yeah, I got to thank Jason Freeman for spotting for me. He told me to run it long, but I wanted to test my hypothesis, and I was wrong. So for all you at-home racers that want to make it big, always listen to your spotter. They're always right. So I think hindsight's 2020. Maybe if I ran it long, that would have been the play on both pit strategies to not have to race so hard and almost wreck it and try to do Formula Drift with John Cannizzaro.
Well, I mean, it was really spectacular to watch. I'm sure it was, fun, but a little more stressful behind the wheel. But we go to Atlanta next Friday with it all on the line. You're in a great position. What's your mindset going into that race?
Top 5. Dude, I love Atlanta. Last 2 times we went, I've won. So that's a track that plays into my favor. But for me, I think the strategy next week is just top 5 it. Don't do anything special. Break the truck home in one piece. No incidents, no penalties, nothing stupid. Just top 5 it. And I should have a favorable result, I would think.
Well, we look forward to seeing how that race plays out. But before we let you go, let's hear those shout-outs.
Yeah, just thanks to Backcraft Cornhole and Tony Lucarelli for sponsoring the truck. If you guys need any cornhole gear, check out Backcraft Cornhole. Thanks to Chris Darling and MaxGrafix for the paint schemes all season long. If you guys need iRacing paint, check out Chris Darling at maxgraphics.co, or look him up on Facebook or shoot him a PM on Discord. He'll get you hooked up with a iRacing paint, design, logo, whatever you need. Once again, thanks to Jason Freeman for taking time out of his busy Friday to spot for me. Really helps having another set of voice in my ears to keep me calm and focused. I learned next time spotter's always right. Thanks to NSRA, the league, Chris Darling, Justin White, everybody who makes this possible. Stan Hausman, all the sponsorship he brings on board. Stay Tuned Sports Podcast for all they do. The TNR guys for racing with me every week. It's always fun to race with friends. And lastly, 3Y TV for the awesome broadcast.
Well, thanks for talking with us, Jason, and best of luck at Atlanta.
Thank you.
Well, that's going to do it with our third place finisher here tonight, Jason Gracias, on the 3 wide TV post race interviews. Definitely might have sounded a little bit dejected, but he'll look back, I'm sure, and go, wow, that truly was a wild and fun finish. Let's see if we can dial up tonight's runner-up, though, John Cannizzaro Jr., who I believe led the most laps here tonight. I'd have to go back and check that, but definitely picked up the CraigSetupShop.co.uk poll award in that number 12 machine. And John, it was a really wild finish here tonight, and green flag the whole way. I mean, you put that into perspective, no caution flags. And at the end, it came down to 3 wide, coming to the white flag. 3 people just leaving every little bit on the table and going for glory, going for the win with only 1 race left next week at Atlanta. Walk us through that race, because it was pretty absurd.
Where do I start? I do want to say one thing first, and that's what Drew said about me on lawn runs. I think I made him eat his words today. I finally did something, and that was do a good lawn run. Other than that, I think it was a good day. Very wild. I did not think when me and Jason got together in 3 and 4, we were saving it. And I'll out myself a little bit. I didn't lift. I wanted that truck to straighten out, and I was going to go chase down Cherry, which unfortunately I couldn't get to his bumper. So, good win for him. The rest of the day, pretty good. Didn't have any issues on pit stops. I'm glad the high side worked. I'm very happy that we finally have a track that the outside worked better than the inside. I like multi-groove racing, clearly, and worked to my favor finally.
Yeah, you were very impressive on that high line, and really getting that truck wound up off of turn number 2. It seemed like that was the best spot you had all night to make a pass. What was it about that line coming out of turn number 2 that you found and used so often?
It's like Homestead, really, and unfortunately Homestead, I didn't do it right, but you get that right up on that seam, and it just grips and it goes, and as long as you hold them down so they can't come off the corner, and you're golden. Just get on the core panel, get them loose, whatever you can, and I got it to work. I used it really good today. It's kind of shocked me too, but I'm glad it was there. It worked well in my favor, especially when I had to come from about 2 seconds back because I can't do pit stop strategy, but I'll take it.
Well, really, really strong run for the number 12 machine, and I know things did not go your well last week at North Wilkesboro, so great to see you bounce back here tonight at the Auto Club Speedway. Going into next week at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, it is the season finale. What are your thoughts about Atlanta? I think if you liked what you had out there on the racetrack here tonight, you'd probably enjoy going to Atlanta next week.
So far this season, last time I went to Atlanta, I did pretty good. I got top 5, I think, so see what happens. I couldn't really tell you. Atlanta's one of those on and off tracks for me. Either I'm really fast or I'm really terrible, but we'll see. I'll do my best and hopefully come out with what I want.
Well, a win would be a great way to end off the season. And who knows, a possible championship as well. It might take a few things to happen a certain way, but you're in to the final race next week with a fighting shot. John, before we let you go, any shout-outs you'd like to give out?
Everybody on Sim Shots, especially NSRA, Jason Freeman, Jason Gracias, especially. I know I'm supposed to be racing him, but he's kept me level-headed this whole week. I've been saying I'm out of a shot. I don't got anything left, but came here, did what I got to do. Unfortunately, didn't get the win, but it is what it is. Shout out to all those guys. They're great friends, even though we seem to get into each other on the racetrack a lot. Just all those guys are great guys. Again, the whole Sim Shots team. My father, I know he's watching. Finally got him on iRacing. We'll be seeing him soon, eventually, or at least hopefully. But and everybody else in the NSRA for on this great season for us.
Absolutely. Well, John, good luck next week. You are, for your count, going to be entering Atlanta Motor Speedway 50 points behind Jason Gracias, 4th place in points. Best of luck next week.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it with the Wild Child, John Cannizzaro Jr., as we've dubbed him. And I believe it is now time to go down to Victory Lane, where Drew Eisenman has caught up with the 2-time winner of the season, Matt Cherry.
Well, Matt Cherry, that was a heck of a way to earn your 2nd win on the season. Drew Eisenman up here, the 3 wide TV booth, you got a copy.
Yeah, sure do.
Well, I don't think we could have asked for a more exciting last few laps. Let's hear about how you saw it go down.
Oh man, that was probably one of the best races I've ever had on iRacing service. That was just fun. I love this place. It's kind of like Michigan, but you can actually use the bottom, and you know they're late in the run, like maybe I don't know 5 to go. I discovered you run it off in there as hard as you want it to. I was just having to use a lot more brake to keep it sticking on the bottom. That way I wouldn't wash up and take anybody out. But it worked out for us, and it was great.
You had a great start to the chase. Things hadn't gone so well since that Daytona win. But how much does tonight kind of help with the semi-better taste that you kind of felt through those last few races?
Yeah, last week it was a rough race. I was just so loose everywhere I went, and we just had a bad race, and I hope this puts me back in it. I know I'm sure I'll have to go into next week and win that race too, and in order to have a shot at the title. We'll just have to see how everything goes. But yeah, the beginning of the season, we always ran into our own problems, some people's problems, and a lot of my own problems, just overdriving the truck, getting loose and wrecking it. But, I've been trying to get away from that. I still get loose from time to time, but we've done pretty good here toward the end of the season. I just wish we could have had this momentum early on in the season.
Well, I don't think there's much more you could have done tonight, obviously, than grab the victory. I think you're still going to have an outside shot at Atlanta, but what's your mindset going into that season finale with the potential to compete for a championship?
Well, when we went to Atlanta earlier this year in this league, I never could keep the tires on it. It was bad. But I ran a race there not too long ago, and we ended up winning it. So I'm hoping the track conditions and everything are good. Just I don't want it to set up to be too loose, but we really won't know until we get there. So I'm hoping we do good next week.
So this next one's going to be a two-parter. The first one is not very important, and it's, can you teach me how to get to be loose at tracks that seemingly everyone else is tight in? Because I would love to experience that. And second's a lot more important, and it's how the heck are you racing tonight? Given that if I'm understanding correctly, you just had a child this morning, so congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah, they're at the hospital. I was going to miss tonight, but she gave me the go ahead to come home and run the race. We only live like 10 minutes from the hospital. She's down there resting right now. She's waiting on me to bring her something to eat. So yeah, I was going to set this one out, but she talked me into it.
Well, Mrs. Cherry is the real MVP for giving you permission to race tonight. So that's awesome. You'll have to give me some lessons on how to get that truck loose whenever I'm tight. And we look forward to seeing you race at Atlanta. And again, congratulations, sir, on bringing a child in, or your wife bringing a child into this world. And good luck at Atlanta.
Yes, sir. You just got to back them corners up and give it hell on exit to get loose.
Thank you for the tip, sir, and thanks for talking with us.
All right. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good night.
Well, the folks, that's going to do it with Matt Cherry here tonight. And I just can't believe that, Drew. His wife's probably sitting right now, starving. And he's going to run to her and say, I finished first. I was the fastest. I tried to get you your food the absolute fastest, but then the jerks up in the 3-wide TV booth had to pull me in for an interview. And I'm sure this is going to be a long spiel, but she's probably just going to be hangry. but also very happy that they had a kid here today. Unbelievable stuff here on 3 Wide TV, the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. I don't think you could have written that or scripted that any better here tonight. As we go towards Atlanta Motor Speedway next week to wrap up the season, point standings have been updated. And Drew, just want to mention Nathan Maurer with tonight's 5th place finish. He's going to jump up to 2nd place in points, but 34 points behind Jason Gracias next week at Atlanta. And that's going to be very important for Nathan. He was our regular season points winner with not a single race win, but here again, creeping up the point standings in the National Sim Racing Association. Silent but deadly. That is Nathan Maurer. Chris Darling going to slide back to 3rd place in points, 38 points behind Jason Gracias. John Canizaro, tonight's runner-up, going to be 4th place in points, 50 points behind Jason Gracias. And Matt Cherry, with his win here tonight, jumps up to the 5th position in the points tally, but 94 points behind Jason Gracias. A lot would have to happen for Matt Cherry, to walk away with the series title next week, but mathematically is still in contention. So let's see if we can jump over and do the post-race results for all you folks back at home watching us here tonight on 3 Wide TV. It was a wild one. 190 miles of green flag action. Absolutely awesome here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series to see that happen. Matt Cherry going to take home the win by just under 0.2 of a second. John Canizaro Jr. 2nd. Jason Gracias in 3rd. Philip Scott coming home in 4th. Nathan Maurer 5th. Chris Darling, who loses that spot in the points tally to Nathan Maurer, finishing in 6th. Dan Hausman 7th. Tristan Maher finishing in 8th. Justin White in 9th. And Adam Newton running out our top 10 there, Drew.
And there we have Travis White in 11th, Adam Leichte in 12th, Randy Perdue 13th, Jeffrey Johnson Jr. in 14th. A solid run by our race sponsor, Adam Dama, of course, tonight being the Frayed Not Threads Nitro Memorial 190. Always good to have man's best friend represented in a sponsor like that. And then it's Vinny Valvano in 16th, Nick Kessler in 17th, Jason Shu in 18th, Garrett Gleason in that number 7 machine in 19th, and then Doug Neal rounding out our top 20.
21st position here tonight, Doug Milliner. Ben Mashburn going to come home 22nd. Not exactly sure what happened to Ben Mashburn, one of the late race retirees. Not sure if there was an issue with him coming to pit road, because that was about when we started to see some trucks make their final pit stop. Jeff Price finishing 23rd, also pulled off the racetrack fairly early on. Scott Tompkins and Fred Lester did not start here tonight at the Auto Club Speedway, folks. One thing that we do have to do, of course, at the end of the race is the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Race Mover Award, and that is tonight gonna go to Tristan Maher. And the number 17 machine started this race in 21st. He's gonna be credited with an 8th place finish at the end of this one. So congratulations to Tristan Maher for being our Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the race here tonight. If you want a custom diecast, if you can dream it, they can build it. If you want a sim racing truck or car converted over into a diecast model, they are the place to go. There is a link in the description of this YouTube video. Big shout out to our other series sponsors, BeerStreetJournal.com. There's a link to them in the description as well. If you're a craft beer drinker, they are the place to go to get all your craft beer news across the United States of America. Keep in touch with them. Like their Facebook page and Twitter and all their other social medias to get the latest beer news as quick as you can. Big shout out to Brookstone Animal Hospital, located in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area. They are the sponsor of the National Sim Racing Association Lucky Dog Award. No lucky dogs here tonight, as we were under green flag conditions the entire night. But big shout out to them in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area. Make sure you check them out, as well as MaxGrafix.co for all your iRacing paint needs. MaxGrafix.co painted a good number of the trucks in tonight's field. So if you thought that the paint schemes that you saw were very cool, well, check out MaxGrafix.co. They are the place to go for some of the best iRacing schemes in the business. And of course, Stay Tuned Sports Podcast. And all that they have to offer. Their link to their Podbean is in the description. Some interesting, saucy discussions about NASCAR have been had over the past couple of weeks, and some of the changes being made on the NASCAR side, as well as all of the other sport news across the nation. Of course, with us coming close to the Super Bowl, it is going to be a time to listen to Stay Tuned Sports and their podcast every week for the best news and thoughts and ideas about what's going on in the U.S. sporting world. Also, craigsetupshop.co.uk. I know we just had Daytona 24. Craig Setup Shop having some of the best setups for the Daytona 24, but also having great setups for the Bathurst 12 coming up here soon. If you want to keep your endurance races going, make sure to check them out. craigsetupshop.co.uk. Drew, one more race left here on 3Wide TV. That's next week at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. There's always a slick racetrack at Atlanta. It's going to be difficult for these drivers to hold on, and what a great track to round out the series title.
Yeah, one of the more old school venues for a finale, and that, of course, is Atlanta, where the likes of Alan Kulwicki, amongst others, and, of course, Dale Earnhardt Sr. won a title or two at that famed venue. Glad we're going to see the old Atlanta once again. I think it would be a little dampened if it were the new unfortunate reconfiguration, but maybe that'll be exciting too. But I love that we're at old Atlanta, and I can't wait to see the likes of Jason Gracias, Chris Darling, John Cannizzaro, Nathan Maurer, and maybe Matt Cherry battle for this championship for the NSRA Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. I can't think of a better place for it to end, and I can't wait for next Friday.
I cannot wait as well. But that's going to do it here for us tonight on 3Wide TV. From myself, Peter Short, Drew Eisman, and everyone else in the 3Wide TV family. Thanks for stopping by here tonight. Make sure to join us 9 o'clock Eastern next week right here on 3Wide TV on YouTube, February 4th for the season finale. You won't want to miss it. If tonight was anything like what you're going to see next week, it is going to be awesome all the way to the checkered flag. Folks, stay safe and all that good stuff, and we shall see ya!